Good Wednesday morning. This is Matthew Bible Study number 68. This is Pastor Mark Pierce from Church Requel. And as you can see, I am bringing this Bible study to you this morning from Mansfield Cemetery. Seems appropriate that when we come to Matthew chapter 5, verse 4, that we think in terms of a cemetery. We think in terms of where we have lost loved ones, where we have been separated, perhaps for a very long time, from those who we love greatly. Jesus, in the very second beatitude, tells us, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." It seems like there's probably no other place where a greater paradox takes place than right here. Those who mourn, meaning those who weep, those who are greatly sad, those who are grieving, lamenting, crying greatly, over to those who are just have this deep gut feel of hurt, that something's just not right about this separation, about this death perhaps, or whatever the other situation might be that we would be grieving over. And yet Jesus, in the same breath, in the same sentence, uses the word makarios, which, as we have studied over the course of the last couple of weeks, means great joy, great happiness, a sense of fortune. How lucky we are when we mourn. I don't know about you, but I look at that and I think, how can these two things go together? I certainly have thought in the past, as I've thought of this, that Jesus is saying that when we go through times of difficulty, when we go through times of grief, as when we lose a loved one, that the Holy Spirit will be there for us and that He will comfort us. And I certainly see this here. In fact, the idea of will be comforted, this word will be comforted, is parakaleo, is a root word. Para meaning to come alongside of, and kaleo meaning to be called. And so it's calling alongside of, getting help, getting comfort. And certainly the very process of mourning and grief gives us the opportunity for the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, to come alongside of us. I think this is what the gospel writer for John had in mind in John chapter 14, when he describes the Spirit using the same word, the Holy Spirit using the same word, paraclete. The Spirit does come alongside. He does give us comfort. But I can't help but wonder if maybe there is a broader idea that Jesus might have in mind, that, again, we can certainly see when we come to a place like this cemetery. Because whenever we have gone through death, there's this idea that, this just isn't what God had in mind. He didn't create life for death to take place. He created life for life eternal, for life to go on. This seems to be the idea that God has, not this. And so when we come to death, we say, well, this isn't what He had in mind. And it's not just death. It can be a break in relationship. It could be when we lose a loved one to war or to separation or to distance, when families don't get along, when churches have difficulty, whatever the problem might be, we think to ourselves, boy, this just isn't what God had in mind. This isn't what He created. In this whole passage, where Jesus is beginning His Sermon on the Mount, I think He's talking about this new invasion of the kingdom of heaven coming down and touching earth. And He's saying, when you mourn, whether it be for a specific situation or whether you just are mourning over the way things are that they shouldn't be, that He's saying, you are blessed, you are fortunate, because you now begin to understand that what we see now and what we are experiencing now is not the way that it always will be. This ending of the verse, will be comforted, certainly is a future tense. It brings an ending in mind of future times. But you know, it's also a passive tense, which means that we will not be doing the comforting, but that we ourselves will be comforted. I can't help but think that Jesus might have had in mind Isaiah chapter 62, where we see very similar words that talk about the Messiah, and that in our times of mourning that there will be a comforting. I think that Jesus is telling us He's the one, and He has inaugurated this new kingdom. And when we grieve, when we mourn, whether it be for acute, specific grieving over the loss of a loved one, or whether it just be this general gnawing in the stomach of our soul, in the very being of who we are, that this just doesn't feel right, that He's saying, in the kingdom of heaven, you can count on the fact that there is going to be a new heaven and a new earth, and that you will be comforted. These are great words that every Christ follower should hold on to and know that this is going to be the eternal experience of our life, one of the Spirit of God coming alongside of us and giving us great comfort and joy and blessing. Thank you for joining me this morning, and I look forward to talking to you again on Thursday.